down your baby and pick up a beer. Dad Jokes is back with a brand new episode. I'm Jerry here, joined by Brandon. You're listening to the podcast of two first-time dads going through the journey of fatherhood together with all of you at home or in the car or at work listening to us. How you doing, Brandon?
Part of me feels like we've been dads for 10 years and 10 minutes all at the same time, which maybe is the name of the game.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's the dad business is kind of a day-by-day business. Sometimes you have those days and you're like, man, how do they get so big and where's the time gone? And then you have those days where you kind of look at your kid and you're like, all right, I'm ready for the next stage because I'm about over this stage.
How you feeling today?
Today I'm about over this stage. It's been a rough day today. It's been a rough week for the most part in the household here. But before we get into that, Brandon, as always on our show, we start off with the dad joke. You want to go first or second today?
I'll go second this time,
Ooh.
Jerry.
All right,
Mix
I got
it
one
up.
for you. I got one for you. I thought it was funny. We'll see if you do.
Well, I'm waiting with bated breath.
With bated breath.
I really just wanted to say that.
Brandon, what do you call a pudgy psychic?
Shots fired. A pudgy psychic. I don't know. Fat Shazam.
A fortune teller.
Pretty decent.
I thought it was clever. So that's your dad joke today. But let's get into this week, Brandon. How was Bryce and how was the Banks household for this past week?
This was a fun week for us. We both of us took some time off work. So this was the longest time consecutively I got to spend with Bryce since basically the first 2 weeks of his life. I was off work for 8 days. And it was great. We got some things done around the house. We were in the process of potentially purchasing a new home. So getting a few things done around the house, meeting with realtors, going to a few showings over the past couple weeks. And it's been pretty great. I just got to spend a lot of time with Bryce. He has 4 teeth coming in right now.
Whoa.
One has cut through completely. So his front 2 teeth you can clearly see, and then one of his front 2 teeth has come down. It's broken the skin. The other one is soon to follow. You can clearly see it, and then his 2 bottom in the front, you can see the outline of those coming through as well. So for sure, one has cut in, but it looks like there are some others close to follow. And surprisingly, he's handling it pretty well. Probably better than I would have or did. He's been a little bit fussy, but it comes in random. He'll wake up in the middle of the night like he normally does, but instead of just kind of gradually waking himself up and then whining and then crying, it's more like he wakes up straight out of his sleep and just starts screaming. And then he's pretty easy to soothe after that. So it's you wouldn't really be able to tell if someone didn't tell you. So that's I guess knock on wood, we're getting pretty lucky there. And it was great. I feel like him and I bonded well. We were at my parents' house earlier. They were watching it while we went to a showing, and he saw me. He reached out for me, and it was like the greatest feeling in the world. And then he saw his mom, and it all didn't matter anymore. So, but I got some temporary moments.
You just gotta enter rooms without Kelsey. That's all it is, and then you're number one. If she's around, then you come number 2. So I got a question, Brandon. What is the Banks new house percentage at right now? If you're getting a new house, yes versus no, what's the percentage that says yes?
I would say 90% yes.
90% yes. That seems more confident than even you were just a little bit ago. So
well, we toured a house today that we're going back to tomorrow, and we might be putting an offer in. So
well, there you go. That's exciting.
We'll see. The offer still had. This is a crazy market, so we're not But I think we have kind of looked at the budget, looked at what we need, and determined that it's a good time to pull the trigger as opposed to potentially waiting a couple years. So I would say talk to me after Tuesday, because I feel like it might be the right house, and we happen to run across one that may fit what we're looking for. I might be back down to 50-50.
Well, we'll see. Maybe next week on the podcast we'll have more clarity. But 90% was even more so than what
That was
it
a
was
little
at
high.
work earlier
It was a
today.
little high. It's probably 65%.
It'll be fun to
truth.
listen back to this episode later on if it goes through or doesn't. Either way, because 90% that's pretty close.
Well,
And
we'll know by next week. Well, you said to move in general.
Hey.
I think through this process, we've kind of figured that, yeah, it might be something we want to do.
I've had bad luck with 90%ers lately, so
We're not gonna talk. We're not gonna talk about that.
we'll go with keeping our fingers crossed, and hopefully it all works out for the best.
Yeah, I got some jokes there, but I'm gonna keep them to myself.
You do that.
I'm the right person to buy the house, though.
I like it. So yeah, Brandon, our week has been a rough one. I won't lie to you. Peyton has been pretty cranky all week. And in weeks past, we've kind of known why. Like, it was the teething thing for a while. It was a sleep regression thing. She was cocky. This week has just been strange. She has just randomly just been in horrible moods and doesn't want to be consoled. She's not hungry, needs to be changed. Most of the time, doesn't seem like she should be overtired. It's been weird. She has been kind of all over the place. The positive side is, in between kind of her crazy moments, she's sprinkled in some really good moments where she's been playing and doing all kinds of crazy things. She's been rolling over front to back to front like crazy. She's been swinging her legs in her chair, making it rock. She's been, grabbing new things, giving you new facial expressions. So a lot of good moments in between the craziness.
And she's baby Mozart.
Yeah, she loves music. She likes to play the xylophone. She likes to play her piano mat. One exciting thing that happened is we did start introducing her to solids this week. We thought that might help with some of her fussiness, maybe. And we gave her carrots the first time. And as you know, Brandon, when you're doing feeding, and we'll probably do an episode on feeding coming up, but when you start feeding, they say that oftentimes babies hate the food, and you just got to keep introducing it to them. Well, that's not our problem with Peyton. She literally Vulcan death gripped the spoon after I gave it to her and did not want to let it go because she loved them carrots so much, and she just kept wanting more and more and more. And then
she making any faces or anything while she's eating it, like reacting
like,
to the taste?
Well, yeah, when the spoon gets pulled away, she's opening her mouth like, no, I need more, like a baby bird. And then today we gave her sweet potatoes. I'm like, okay, well, it'll be interesting. The kid likes food, which is ironic because she's so tiny. She's so small, but the kid loves some food. She always wants to eat, always wants bottles, but now she has sweet potatoes today, and she threw a hissy fit when we were like, no more, because again, you're not supposed to do too much at the beginning. So we gave her, a decent amount, and then we're like, okay, we're done, and she wanted more, and she let everyone know she wanted more. And she wants to hold the spoon too, Brandon. Don't hold the spoon for her. She's going to hold it, and she's going to eat it her own way because she's an independent 5-month-old, which is also another thing that happened this week. She turned 5 months old, so I have a 5-month-old that's cranky, likes food, and throws in some smiles to make it all worth it in between. So,
well, she's holding true to that personality test that you basically took for her a couple episodes ago.
Yes,
it basically says she's a strong-willed little woman, and she wants her way.
She is, and it's been interesting. Tomorrow we have her baptism. So I'm hoping that she behaves then. The funny thing too, Brandon, is like I said, this week she's been mostly cranky. She's been bad today, but I can't remember if it was a couple days ago, but she was just great though. Like one of the better days. Like I got home from work a little early and she was just a little angel the whole time. And I was like, man, this is great. Like, so there's no rhyme or reason to it. And she sprinkled in like an amazing day in between a bunch of bad ones. So I don't know.
Well, it's going to be great when you start getting those more and more frequent. She's going to grow out of it. It's just times like this are tough.
Yeah.
And truthfully, I can't fully relate, but this is me giving you a pep talk.
Well, we'll see what happens when she starts getting more foods, more solids, if that changes anything or not, especially with the sleeping. I do know I put her down before I came down here, and she was asleep for about 20 minutes, and then I tried to put her down again for about 30 minutes, and I failed. So Macy's doing that right now. So tonight seems like it's going to be an interesting night here too.
You might have just gave us bad luck too, because I hear my son crying, and that never happens after we put him down this quickly. So we'll see.
But Brandon, on this show, we love to talk about baby gear, and I have to tell you something. And I haven't even talked to you about this yet before getting on today because I wanted to save it for the podcast. But last week we talked about a piece of baby gear, and I mentioned a piece of baby gear that I have that I really haven't used at all. And I think the baby gear gods heard me and decided to play a trick on me. That piece of baby gear was the Colugo baby carrier, and I said that I just never use it. Well,
Oh,
this week with Peyton being so cranky, she doesn't want to be put down, and I had to get some stuff done the other night. Macy was at work, so I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna put her in this baby carrier so I can walk around with her, and she calmed right down. And I've used it 3 times now this week, 2 of which very, very successfully, 1 of which so-so. But after saying that I've never used it, I used it 3 times this week, and again twice. It was kind of a lifesaver. So I apologize, Colugo, because now I'm on board. I'm back on board.
they got somebody like in the Buffalo Wild Wings commercials, like, oh, he doesn't need it. Let's hit the buzzer.
Exactly. I'm back on. But you got any baby gear to go over this week, Brandon?
Oh, I got a few things to go over.
Okay.
The first 2 are absolutely free, but Bryce has been infatuated with them. One, so if you have this at home, you're in luck, is a ceiling fan. It doesn't matter what this kid is doing. If I want him to be quiet for like 10 minutes and just fascinated and like making cooing sounds and super happy, I'll put him in a room. I'll turn the fan on. And he'll look up and he'll just be having the time of his life. So that was the first one. And then water bottles. And this is kind of like, I hate to like relate kids to dogs, but I do it all the time. It's like I feel like as we've had dogs, you spend money on like dog toys, and then they're more infatuated with like literally like water bottles and random things that come around. A lot of toys now just have water bottles in them. But I was legitimately playing with him for about 15, 20 minutes earlier. I was picking up a water bottle in front of him. He would grab it, pick it up, throw it around, and it was like the most engaged he was all day. Those are 2 free things that if you're running on a budget, don't want to spend any more money on toys, grab you if you don't have a ceiling fan, it might be a little bit more expensive, but grab you a couple water bottles. We're playing with a Propel bottle earlier, not a sponsor. And then the other thing is it's called the VTech Little Critters Soothing Starlight Polar Bear, and this was appropriate because we're talking about. Oh, well, perfect. How's it working for you guys?
It's not.
I love when
but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, it does work for some kids because it works for Bryce. That's another thing. He kind of just stares at the stars. It can play music. It also plays kind of weird sounds if you don't have the settings right. But I mean, we use it every day when we're putting them to sleep. That's part of our nighttime routine. And it's been great. And it's not that expensive. It's like $26.
Yeah, we haven't used it in a minute. We might have to try that back out. But like when you have a cranky baby, you do try a lot of different things. So that was one of the things. And speaking of another thing, one thing that Peyton loves to do is she loves to move. She does not like to sit still.
Take a shot every time Jerry just said thing. Rewind it.
Exactly. So I decided this week, normally it's Macy that decides things, but this week I was like, you know what? Let's get her one of those jumperoo type things. Kind of similar to the one you talked about, but I'm like, she loves the move, so I want to get her some activity. I think she'll love it. So we got her this jumperoo. It's actually from Fisher-Price. The exact name of it is, I believe, the Fisher-Price Astro Kitty Space Saver Bouncer Jumperoo in turquoise. So that was the exact one we bought. And it's funny because it basically says as long as your baby can hold its head up, it should be good to go. I'm reading reviews. People are like, my baby loved it at 3 months old. My baby, and all these different people talking about it. Well, Peyton's 5 months old, and she's still too short. She get this jumperoo, and she can kind of touch with her tiptoes. But the poor girl, she's short, and she doesn't weigh enough, which kind of brings the jumperoo down. Yeah. So we stacked a couple books underneath to let her kind of have a little fun with it, and she liked it, but I'm just like, man, I can't. We had a couple of things that she seems like she would love, but they're just still too big for her because she's 5 months, but she's the size of like a 2 or 3 month old. So
well, she'll get there.
It's just but that's something we did buy, so I'm looking forward to her using that. I don't know if she'll love it or not yet, but I think she will. Just on her personality, it seems like she will really like that. So I wanted to get one of those because I can imagine her spending lots of time in there. And if she can spend a couple minutes in there instead of someone's arms, it might be a win.
The more time Bryce has spent in his Jolly Jumper, I'm noticing like pretty frequently. If he's laying like on my chest, he's pushing off a ton now and like literally jumping on me. At my parents' house earlier, I had him on the table, and I'm like holding him underneath his arms, and he's doing the exact same motion. So it's kind of fun from a dad perspective when you do that, because you kind of teaching him to jump, and you can kind of throw him in the air a little bit too. So she'll get there, and it'll probably be sooner than you think.
Yeah, that's the hope. So another segment that we do on the show, Brandon, that we haven't done in a while, but that I'm a fan of, is baby facts. And I got a couple baby facts for you today that I learned this week. You ready for them?
I'm ready.
So the first one is kind of not that. I guess I just was surprised by it. I don't know if it's groundbreaking here or not, but we were starting to introduce Peyton to solids, right? And so because of your experience and some other things, I was like, okay, we need to get some baby Benadryl for Peyton in case something happens. So I go to the store and I'm looking at everything, and everything I read says do not take under 2 years of age. And I'm like, am I not finding the freaking stuff I'm supposed to be looking for? I'm like literally going, I'm doing it during work, and I'm trying to take 2 minutes to run and grab something, and I can't find it. I'm looking every aisle, the baby aisle, the medicine aisle. I'm starting to get mad. So finally I Googled
Imagine it's while you think your kid's having an allergic reaction.
Well, yeah. So I basically found out that you're not supposed to give a baby allergy medicine under the age of 2 unless your pediatrician, tells you so. Which they will do, obviously, in kind of your situation, Brandon. I'm sure that's what they did. But it was kind of funny because I'm like thinking I'm going crazy, but nope, you're not really supposed to. Now, there is a product that is sold that's specifically for babies, and it says you can take it from 6 months on. They do sell that, and it's an allergy medicine. I'll have to get the exact name. Macy bought it. They sell it at Walmart, I know. But I was surprised by that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that I would just say, so in that scenario, basically I'm kind of getting told what's going on. So Kelsey's like, hey, he's having a reaction to this. And then like she shows me his face. His face is completely broken out. I'm thinking like Hitch. I'm thinking my kid's turning to Will Smith. He's not gonna be able to breathe. Right. I'm like, yo, we need to figure out what's going on. So the doctor says that. So I'm running the local Rite Aid, and then I'm trying to make sure I get the right one. So I do the exact same thing you do. And everything says, do not give this to babies. There's nothing on there that says, like, give it to a kid. So I called her. I was like, yo, the doctor really tell you to get this? Because it says that we're not supposed to. So I'm doing exactly what you did, walking up and down the aisle. I'm kind of freaking out because I feel like I'm not moving fast enough. I ended up getting, I bought, 2 different types at the time and just brought it back. And then I kind of found something on the way that said what doses we should give. So we probably actually underdosed him because I was freaking out so much. And then he ended up we gave it to him, and we immediately went to pick him up because he had kind of a reaction to it, and he spit it all out. And I was like, nope, don't give him any more for this period of time. You don't know how much he just took. So,
well, it's funny because you guys had that experience, and we talked about that, and we never went over kind of the medicine side of things. So yeah. I tried calling you, actually. You were off work this past week. I think I tried calling you in the store. You didn't answer the phone because I was legit like, okay, Brandon knows what the heck to get. He's dealt with this.
Oh yeah.
And I was getting, and then I came home and I'm like, Macy, you're not supposed to take that, and she's like, oh, it's fine. I'm like, nurses are like.
They're all like, you calling me? Your wife's a freaking pediatric nurse.
Yeah, but she's always like, it's fine. Like that's her. Like it's always fine. And I'm like, I'm the one who freaks out. It probably is. But you read the one thing, and it's like, if you take Benadryl under 2, they have a chance of dying or something crazy. And, like,
and
okay,
worse. Well, not worse than dying. But
I was saying worse.
It has some. I don't know. But just for the record out there, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a pediatric nurse in the house, or just a random friend who you talk about baby stuff with for public consumption, you should probably listen to the pediatric nurse.
Well,
Just
I don't know. So we got some stuff,
that's
but
the right
it
answer.
was funny. It was funny. That's my first my first baby fact for the.
I can't believe you called me.
I did call you because you dealt
That's
with it.
hilarious. You're
And
right.
then the second baby fact I have for you, Brandon, is we started again giving Peyton food this week, and we were making some baby food, and we were gonna save it in these cool little jars. And so I'm asking Macy, I'm like, hey, how long is this food good for? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, so again, I Google it, and I went to like 15 different sources because I did not like the answer, Brandon, and I kept getting the same answer. And basically, the answer is that baby food is good in the fridge for up to 48 hours, which seems like that's not enough time. Like, why am I saving this for up to
Especially the
40
little
hours?
amount that you're feeding them.
Correct. It seems crazy to me. So that's a fun fact. And if you freeze it, it's good up to 3 months. But if you freeze it, then you got to thaw it out and do all that stuff. So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know. In my head, I thought you could save baby food for like weeks at a time and it would sit in your fridge and it was all good. That's not the case. So 48
Yeah.
hours.
Pretty
And
much
it
make
seems
it and
across
eat
the
it.
board. It's 48 hours. I actually think that like the FDA says like 24 hours. They might even be less. But almost
We
everything
don't
else
really
says
store
48.
it. It's basically Kelsey like makes it in the food processor and he eats it. It's farm to table. He's eating better than
Farm
all
to
of us.
table. There you go. I like it. So with that, Brandon, did you have any baby facts this week?
Baby facts? No, I don't. I'm ready
Okay.
to get to the topic because I got a bunch of facts when it comes to that.
There we go. And the topic today is napping. Naps specifically and how they affect your baby, how they affect you, kind of some schedules that you can do, what they say you should try, and kind of some signs to tell when your baby needs to nap or if maybe you're not doing some things the way that is best for them. So we'll kind of go into that. But Brandon, napping's crucial, and you hear about it a lot when you're not a parent. I used to hear like my siblings and other people with kids, and they were always freak out about naps, like they didn't nap today, or we got to get home because they're gonna need to nap. And I was always like, you guys are just overblowing this.
Yeah, now we're those people.
Now I'm kind of like, yeah, there's some truth to it because naps are really important. And there's some different ways you can kind of figure out when your baby needs to nap. But really quickly, Brandon, to talk about schedules specifically, babies that are like 1 to 2 months old, they need to nap pretty frequently, like 5 to 6 times a day, if not more. And they need to be asleep for like 17 hours a day. That's for basically newborns, is what we would call a newborn.
Yep.
It starts to
Kids
change.
sleeping a lot. That's normal.
Yep, it starts to change around 3 months. Usually you nap 3 to 4 times a day, 30 minutes to 2 hours. 4 months, it could go 2 to 3 naps a day, 1 to 2 hours. So usually longer naps, but less frequently. You still can do 4 naps at 4 months. I've seen a lot of 4 nap schedules. 5 months is kind of very similar to 4 months. 6 months, it usually goes more to the 2 to 3, 1 to 2 hours apiece. And then 7 to 12 months, they generally say 2 naps a day, 1 to 2 hours at a time. But the big things that's kind of across the board that I've read, I don't know if you're the same, Brandon, but you don't really want your baby to take much more than a 2-hour nap. And you need them to nap at least pretty much twice a day for the first year. Kind of what did you see on schedules?
It's pretty much exactly the same. The way I look at it and the way we kind of have since Bryce has been born, it is almost flipping it on its head. So we're looking at the wake window. So how long is your kid awake? A little bit later, we'll talk about kind of cues that you'll see, especially in the beginning. It's harder to read a lot of times. So you cues to let you know that your baby's sleeping, but so I'm kind of going to go over exactly what you just said, but from a wake window perspective. So 0 to 3 months, you want to have a maximum of 60 to 90 minutes. And so basically you're taking, like you said, a bunch of frequent short naps, but that 60 to 90 minutes is that wake window. And 3 to 6 month wake time is 1.5 to 2.5 hours. And just so you guys know, this information is coming from slumberpod.com. It's actually it's a blog that they have. Certified sleep expert wrote this and has done a lot of research on it. You guys might recognize the term or the product SlumberPod. They've been on Shark Tank if you're a Shark Tank fan. So, like I said, 3 to 6 months, 1.5 to 2.5 hours of awake time. They're recommending 3 naps a day at that point. 6 to 9 months, 2.5 to 3 hours of wake time. And that's, as you mentioned, with that 7 to 12, it kind of fits into that same philosophy where you're consolidating to the 2 nap portion. And that's where we are right now with Bryce. Right now, he's taking 2 solid naps and kind of a cat nap because we're trying to consolidate that 3rd nap into just basically 2 naps going forward. And then the last thing is the 9 to 13 months, 2.5 to 4 hours of awake time, and you're looking at 2 naps in that period as well.
Yeah, and a big thing too, and Brandon, you mentioned wake windows, which is kind of nice because it allows you a little bit of flexibility. But I will tell you, because I've read a million things on getting your babies to sleep better, because mine doesn't sleep very well. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, by the way, because I've tried a lot of this stuff and it hasn't worked for me personally. But this is what everything says: is routine is very important. And what I mean by that is if your baby is struggling to sleep, a lot of times they tell you to make sure you have a similar routine. That means they're waking up around the same time each day and they're going to bed around the same time each day. And when you put them to bed, you have a similar routine. So whether it's feed, read, bed, whether it's feed right to bed, or if you kind of play for a little bit, whatever the routine is, kind of make it the same. They tend to tell you not to play before bed, kind of have something relaxing, have them calm for a little bit, and then put them down. But to have a similar routine is what is recommended to have the best way to have your kids nap, and should help them sleep for longer periods of time and for more frequently. Again, I've done all that, and it doesn't. Sometimes Peyton will nap for 2 hours and be great. Other times she's down for 5-10 minutes and wakes right back up. So there's not a lot of consistency here, but we try to do it the same way every time so that there is at least that routine.
Yeah, and you can build that a lot of times off of the cues that your baby gives you. So, and what Jerry and I are both mentioning, you hear like ranges, so 60 to 90 minutes of wake time, 1.5 to 2.5 hours of wake time. It's not, it's a set of parameters, but the question I would then have if I'm listening is, well, what determines if it's 1.5 or 2.5 hours? And the answer is your kid. So you have to watch out for the sleep cues. How do you know when Peyton's getting tired? How do I know when Bryce is getting tired? The first little stage there is they're getting sleepy. So they may start being uninterested in toys, or maybe even you start looking off into space, giving cues like raised eyebrows. That's when you kind of start working on the routine to get them into a nap or for bedtime, because you want to do that before they get overtired. So then it's time for bed. So you'll see signs for, they've already showed you they're getting sleepy. So now you're starting your routine. You see signs like yawning, red eyes, fussing potentially, and that's when it's time to get them into bed and start that actual, hey, it's time to go to bed routine. But you need to make sure that you give yourself enough time, which is why it's important to follow those cues, because you don't want your baby to become overtired. And overtired is something Kelsey says all the time. She's been saying it since Bryce was born. I kind of giggle every time I heard it in the beginning. I was like, overtired. Like that's the in my head, this might not make sense to people. It was like just a dumb oversimplified word, like overtired. What's the difference in tired and overtired? It doesn't make sense, but it does.
It does now.
It does now. Your baby can become like inconsolable, and you actually may even see, and this is the part that kind of throws me, and especially in the beginning, they become inconsolable, and then they may get like a burst of energy. It's kind of considered a second wind, but it's still a sign that they're overtired. And typically, when your baby's overtired, it takes them longer to settle, so it's even harder at that point if you wait too long to get them into that time for bed routine. And baby being overtired is considered the number one culprit for early morning wake ups as well. So if you time it right, they probably going to stay asleep a little bit longer.
Yeah, overtired just ends up throwing everything out of whack, and it really can mess up your routine and your schedule. That's something that, so if some people go, okay, well, what happens if my baby misses a nap, or, oh, we're running late, so instead of going to bed, normally she likes to go to bed every 2.5 hours to get a nap. Well, now it's been 5 hours. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that they're overtired. Sometimes you might struggle to put them down. So now, when they normally might go down easily, they're not going down. You're fighting with it. So then, by the time you do get them down, it's been so long. Now you missed the next nap. So now they only napped maybe once or twice the day. Now bedtime gets pushed back. Now their feeding schedule gets messed. It just can mess up everything that you do in a day and cause lots of problems. So that's why the overtiredness is a big deal. It's also
it's like the compounding interest of nap time.
Correct. It's also a reason why, if you are going out with your child or you are planning stuff, it is very important to realize what times of the day that is and what it might look like for your baby and their nap schedule, also their feeding schedule, but their nap schedule. And that's why some people are very strict about nap times, specific times. We're not that strict on it. We're kind of like you, Brandon, just because we've tried to be and we haven't been. And it doesn't seem to help us as much, but that can be a reason why. But if you're going out, like you said, you can have them nap, and then all of a sudden you leave 2 hours after they've been awake. They don't sleep maybe in their car seat. Now you go somewhere and you got a bunch of people around them. And again, now you're 4 or 5 hours in. They haven't taken a nap, and all of a sudden your day is a nightmare. It happened to us a couple weeks ago. We went over to my mom's, and everyone was around. They were playing with Peyton. She was good the whole time. She was fine. But then when we got home, she was a little bit of a nightmare because she hadn't napped all day. She was tired, and then she was overtired. And then bedtime became kind of really bad for mom and dad. And then Macy and me looked at each other and said, we're not missing nap time anymore.
I didn't realize how important it was in the beginning, and I probably got on Kelsey's nerves with it because I was like, he missed a nap. What's really the issue? He'll fall asleep. It's a kid. Like he'll fall asleep when he's tired. Sometimes I oversimplify things, but it became apparent pretty quickly. Like we gotta make sure we keep these as much as possible. The hard thing is like getting whoever's watching your kid to follow that same schedule and to know that it's like happening how you need to. Because a lot like
Correct.
Bryce, for example, it's still to this point, if it's nighttime, we can get him to bed, we kind of cuddle him to sleep, and he'll be knocked other than tonight, because I've gotten a couple texts that he woke up quick. But he's out like a light. Like he's out pretty much. You can set your clock to his wake ups unless he sleeps throughout the night. During the day though, his naps are pretty much contact naps. And we have continued to try to wean them off that. Sometimes I would just call it us getting lucky. But so that also puts pressure on the person that's watching him, my parents, because if he needs to go down for a nap, somebody pretty much needs to hold him. They surprisingly though have gotten a little bit more lucky than we have in getting him to sleep without contact.
Yeah, I mean, the people that watch their kid, it is very important. One thing that we've struggled with a little bit is they tell you that the last nap should take place at least 2 hours before bedtime. Otherwise, it can really mess up your bedtime. And that's been a weird area sometimes because I'll come home from work when I work my early days, and I'll get home usually around 5:30. And sometimes my parents or Macy's parents will be watching Peyton, and they haven't napped in a while. But now if I put them down for a nap, it's like, okay, she sleeps till 6:30, 7 o'clock. Now it's too late. Now we're putting her down later. So I'm in that weird zone where either I don't put her down and maybe she's overtired and I risk that, or I do put her down and now she doesn't want to sleep at bedtime either because she's wide awake. So it is important to kind of have those conversations with the people that watch your kids. Otherwise, you can get caught in that weird limbo. I've had that happen to me, and it's been like, well, I don't know what to do now. So
we basically cheated in that scenario. So we'll put him down knowing that we're gonna he'll go to sleep. We know we're gonna wake him up in like half an hour. And that seems to work better than nothing at all.
Yeah, I've done that. I've had her kind of fall asleep in my arms and then kind of wake her up, like that way she got kind of a cat nap in, if nothing else. I've definitely done that, which can work. I don't think it's as effective, at least for us, but it can work. Typically if Peyton naps well during the day, it is generally a better night for us. Not always. But if she doesn't nap well during the day, it doesn't bode well for us. And she didn't nap great today, so we'll see how that goes.
How is she when she wakes up?
Oh, she's happy almost always when she wakes up from a nap.
Bryce is the same. That's like my favorite version of him, to tell you the truth. Especially when he wakes up on his own, like around the time he's supposed to, because he's just up. Then the kid, that's when you like really just, you're looking at the kid's looking at you, and you feel the love.
She's not happy in the middle of the night when she wakes up, but from naps, she's typically pretty happy and pretty good to go. Another kind of strategy you can do, Brandon, if your baby feeds every 3 hours or so, is what we'll typically do is we'll try to kind of feed so that when you have enough time to like burp them and stuff, and then you put them down so that if they sleep that time, when they wake up, it's about time to feed them again. And if you can time that out, it's nice because you don't want them to be super hungry while they're sleeping.
Yeah.
And if you feed them like, too far in advance, then it can cause it, that's when they can be hungry when they're sleeping. If you do it right beforehand too, sometimes if they have spit up issues or whatever, they won't go down. So having a nice balance with their feeding can sometimes help with naps as well.
Yeah, they're full. It's easier for them to fall asleep. The phrase milk drunk is around for a reason.
Yep. And if you're traveling, pack and plays are your friends, bassinets are your friends. Make sure that you have a plan because, again, if you're caught somewhere else and you don't have anywhere for your baby to nap, ultimately it's going to come back on you. And people will understand, especially people that have had kids before. Like I said, they all kind of will talk about naps and schedules and stuff. And I used to roll my eyes, just probably like you did, Brandon. And now I'm kind of like, me and Macy were really good at not being the schedule people, quote unquote, for the longest time. But lately, we're kind of like,
parents.
Maybe we should be a little bit more of schedule people because when we don't follow the schedule, it can definitely hurt us. So that's something that you got to look at.
Definitely helps.
For sure. Anything else that you have in regards to naps, Brandon?
I think we went through my notes, and I'm pretty confident. I'm not sure if you have anything else, but I'm pretty confident in my dad joke, which is why I wanted to go second today.
The only thing I'll add is you've mentioned it lots of times, and so have I, but the Napper app, actually, if you kind of like don't understand wake windows, or if you kind of don't know how to set your schedule, it actually helps a lot, and it's free. The version, all you got to do is tell it when your baby woke up, and it's like it will alert you, like, hey, your baby should go down at this time. And then when you wake them up, you say, okay, they're woken up, and then it tells you when the next nap is, and it actually works fantastic.
Based I'm on mad at myself right now because you asked me if I had anything else. I'm looking at my notes to my right, don't have anything else. And I look at the split screen to my left, and I have the Napper app up because I know I wanted to talk about it. But you hit the nail on the head. Dad Joe's drinking game phrase. It is perfect. And the thing I love about it is, like you said, it'll tell you like the next time that they should go down. But the cues that I went over earlier, it actually tells you, hey, you need to start watching out. Mm-hmm. They'll give you almost like a 30 to 45 minute warning. Hey, Bryce should be getting ready to go down for his nap. Watch out for these cues. So it really makes it dummy proof. And I think it's unnecessary personally to pay for the app. If you want to, they're always running like a special. It's $39 for the year is where it's at right now. They're always running like a 52% off special. The difference between the free and the pay version is access to like historical data. You can see trends, analytics, things like that. And for the most part, you just want to see when your baby needs to go to sleep, and track it from a day-to-day perspective. You can do it for free, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it is. And you kind of mentioned something about cues. It's important to remember, too, like if your baby, quote-unquote, is supposed to go to bed at 1 o'clock, you probably shouldn't start putting them down at 1 o'clock because most babies, you either got to rock them or you got to kind of go through your process. So I know with Peyton, it typically takes about 10 minutes to get her down. Now, sometimes it can take 30 to 45 minutes. Sometimes it can take 5, but typically 10 minutes. So if she should go down around 1, 12:50, I'm trying to put her down. But if your baby's a little bit more difficult to put down and it takes 20 to 30 minutes on average, you don't want to start at the time that they're supposed to go down.
Exactly. Don't straddle the line of overtired. It's better to be early.
Yes, always better to be early. Overtired is not fun. All right, Brandon, let's hear this dad joke. What do you got for me?
You ready for these jokes, Jerry?
I'm ready.
What's brown and rhymes with Snoop?
Poop.
Dr. Dre. Yeah. I can tell that joke. I won.
All right, it was decent. It was
Oh,
decent.
that joke was great. The joke was great. That's my
It was
best.
pretty good.
That's one of my best dad jokes of the entire podcast. I loved it. What's brown and rhymes with Dr. Dang it.
You keep
I'll
messing
do
up
that.
the
I always
delivery.
do that.
You're messing up the delivery.
What's
which is
brown
the
and rhymes
problem.
with Snoop? Well, the great thing is, of course, you want to say poop, and it's not poop. It's Dr. Dre.
I get it. Because
I know you get it.
He
Yep.
rhymes with Snoop. You know, halftime shout
What's
out.
white and rhymes with Snoop?
Eminem.
Yeah, there you go. That's good job.
There you go. See, I can catch on. There we go. I haven't had my naps today either, and I'm still catching on.
What's
Brandon.
green and rhymes with Snoop?
Oh, God, I don't want to go there.
I'm done. Hey, we just passed 420. It's topical.
There you go. It is topical. So, Brandon, I know we talked about naps today, but a couple things that we've hinted on. I know coming up, we got a couple episodes I'm excited about. For all of you listening, I know we're going to talk about feeding coming up and not making baby food or buying baby food and baby food in general, which is kind of a fun topic. I also know that we're going to have a Mother's Day episode coming up, which will be kind of fun. It's both our wife's first Mother's Day, so we'll talk about that. One of us is going to be with their wife for most of the day. The other one's going to be with their wife for part of the day. So we'll go over maybe kind of what that looks like.
Guess who that is?
We'll talk about that, but that's a Mother's Day episode. And then before you know it, Brandon, we're going to have another top 10 episode, which is always one of my favorites. So lots of good episodes coming up here quickly. As always, if you like us, please like us on social media or tell your friends about us or give us ideas, give us some feedback. We love hearing from each and every one of you. I'm excited. Brandon, one thing though, we did talk about fitness recently. How has your Peloton fitness journey been this last week? We didn't talk about that.
It's been solid. You and I have had some friendly competition going back and forth with some classes. The last class, I believe you beat me, so I got to go back and take that one to try to take the lead again. It's been fun. I've been doing a couple off-bike workouts this week. We took, actually I didn't say this earlier, but we took Bryce on a walk today, and it was crazy. I don't know. It wasn't really that crazy. It was fun, but I was almost more tired from the walk than I was on the Peloton. But I wore the wrong shoes, so that didn't really help, especially when you're heavy like I am.
Well, the weather was great today. And yeah, I did beat you on the one, but you beat me on one that I'll give you lots of props.
I wasn't
going
to bring that up.
That one, I did pretty good on, I thought, and you came out and even topped that, so that was good. But I like the back and forth that we're having. You can just go to one of my recent ones, I'm sure, and take that one and see.
Oh,
see
you
how
sound
you
real
do.
confident.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that's what you can
confident.
do. We'll see what it does. I'm happy with kind of what's been going on. It's been fun.
I'm hopping
like
on once we hang up here.
I did one this morning, but tomorrow is my goal. I've been on every day but one since we've had it, so I want to continue down that. It is kind of fun. Like I said, if you are a dad that has a Peloton, follow both of us on Peloton. Feel free to do that. I'm Dad Jokes 24. Brandon is Brandon Banks 91. Correct, Brandon?
That's correct. I might change my name though. People have like very creative names on there.
Yeah, yours is boring.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you can change it like easy, unlike with like Xbox where you gotta like give your firstborn up to change it. so yeah. But anyways, like us, like tell our friends about us. Do whatever you got to do to get our word out there. But for Brandon, I'm Jerry, and you've been listening to Dad Jokes.